Here is a follow-up video in a little more detail on how sands and ashes can become mountains. And as I go through this little demonstration, I'm going to take apart my table, I'm going to pull out the trees, I'm going to pile up some of what would be the ashes and show you where some of these deserts come from and how some of these piles of ashes make mountains over long periods of time. I'm also going to show you my little model in the background of a giant tree that turns into a mountain. So without further ado, here we go. This is my star map that goes over my table with all my constellations, the Milky Way. Everything is on there for reference. This is my table with it drilled out so I could spin it. I could also shine the light through here and get all the stars to project onto the ceiling so I can tell the stories that match all the stars. Here's my sun with my snake, my serpent going all around. Like that. Get that out of the way. And then here is for visual aid. The top of my table is clear plexiglass with the stars marked out with a Sharpie. Here are my trees. Our trees. So with these trees that we have here, these would have been matching up all the solar system or planets are just round circular reference marks, but they are more like stumps of a tree. So if we lay this solar system over the Gleason map that was still relevant until 1885, all the running waters that sprout from the ground are within these circles. My explanation is that they were giant trees and they burnt down because of electrical fires, being that they're made of natural electricity, and this would have been our root system. They would have fossilized by the intense flames, and flames would have only gone out once the oxygen had been completely depleted in the ozone. We're currently only breathing 29% oxygen saturation. The rest is nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon, pollution, smoke and dust, all that other stuff. I can only imagine and hope that we ever get to a much higher oxygen saturation to where we could really expand as humans and maybe bring this beautiful land back. All right, without further ado, let's start taking some of these trees down. There would have been some of the biggest trees, like the biggest planets. We would have had the center tree would have been a big one. We also have the ones that would have been in Africa, on the main continent there, the ones that are going to be in the main Russian area, Europe, Asian area, and also in Australia. I have all these marked out. This is Mount Connor in Australia. We'll take that one down. This is the tabletop mountain in Africa. This would have been a giant tree in the base part of Africa, which is no longer there. And now let's take some of these beautiful ashes and sprinkle them down where they would have been. So this would have been all the ash that would have gone into the oceans, totally just contaminating our oceans. If those oceans, being one body of water, had one name, I would call that the Atlantis Ocean, and it would probably have buried what our previous technology would have been. Being the way the plants grow, I think they would have connected. In between the trees that are very close, they would have been able to form a landmass, and once the landmass flooded, very mud floodish, you would have had the plains that would have formed in the Americas. That would have been bridging between these root systems, and you would have had them be able to collect dust and then form a plane like that, you know, gathering in the middle. So let's take down some of these trees. This would have been a big one, would have been South America. We have dust and ash, and all this stuff would have been the same material covering all this stuff. It's the same chemical compound as concrete. It's where we get concrete. We see concrete everywhere in every continent. We're not shipping concrete. That's not an export. It's our soil. So these trees would have all burnt down, leaving us just stumps in these little places here. This would have been the biggest tree. We would have lived in the top of these trees in the canopies. Climbing up the trees would have been huge. With the root systems like this that could have been wired, touching each other, bridging to each other. And after the big old bombs and electrical stuff going off, we would have had this form. We have a sun tracker, a moon tracker, and a heavens tracker. I go put that right down in the middle of that, where that old tree used to go, because everything spins around that. Take all these trees down. Just ash. Or these trees.